Welcome to the SHENKO Dynasty. Welcome to the SHENKO Dynasty podcast. I'm Kashenko, and today we have a very interesting and special, unique guest. His name is the Peace Dealer, and the reason why I wanted to bring him on here was because over the years, the Peace Dealer has just given me so much to think about. Just the way that he shares his perspectives on astrology and just worldly events and spirituality. I've learnt a lot from him in my process and just coming into my own sovereignty. So I just wanted to give this space to him to really communicate important things, especially about astrology, because I feel like whilst it is not something that everyone has to be drawn to, there's also ways that people don't understand the true nature of astrology, and it kind of gets misconstrued as this really woo-woo thing. And there's a stereotype. There's definitely a stereotype about people that are into astrology. And I think some of the things I've heard the Peace Dealer speaks on really shines light on the actual science of astrology. So I'm really happy to have him on the podcast to talk about some things that we can think about, because he gives a very logical and grounded perspective as to what it really is. By the way, I don't know what happened when I was recording this episode. The Peace Dealer's audio was fine. It's just mine when it was uploading. It became really distorted. So I apologize for the audio quality on my end. And I did my best to kind of mix out how distorted it was. The way that I got it in this episode is a lot better than how it came out. It was sounding really, really crazy. So I apologize for that. But yeah, I hope it doesn't distract too much from the content. And here's the Peace Dealer. And I have a very special guest here today. His name is the Peace Dealer. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm actually kind of amazed at the timing of all of this. I think this is a great way to start the Virgo season.
Yes, with a Virgo too.
Right? You're bringing new moon in for me, with me.
That's awesome. So I want to start with understanding what creativity has been like for you.
That's actually quite the question for me because my fifth house of creativity is Virgo. And
Mm.
I that region of my chart is rather empty. Like I don't have anything in there. So I've never really been as conscious around my creative process. And can sometimes feel it's lacking. Um until like I'm in that moment, which is kind of what I learned through that. It's a very obviously in the moment process. But outside of procrastination, like once you gain that inspiration, I kind of gain these short bursts of inspiration that um just drive so much creativity for me. But I appreciate the question because I feel almost a renaissance of sorts where I've integrated so much over the past years that like now I have more of an idea of how uh I'd want to drive it, like cultivating the creativity versus knowing what to do with it. And I feel like I'm breaking through into that, like knowing more how I want to express it.
Mm. So in the last year, what have been some important perspectives that you've kind of come into?
Um, I would say a lot of it really boils down to acceptance
Mm.
into who one is and what one has, and um, kind of like you ever think you knew you had something or got something, and then you realize there's like a whole nother basement floor of understanding, right?
Yeah.
And it's like gain so much wisdom, but then there's like so much more to learn. So it's pretty
Mm.
cool. It's very
Yeah.
humbling too.
Yep. I know you do music and astrology. What, like, what kind of, how do you express yourself creatively?
And that's one thing I actually appreciate about Virgo, because um I'm just now kind of understanding what integration, like I'm sure I always knew what integration was, but in being able to apply it, I realized a lot of what I really been doing is just like activating or just you know, playing with playing with sounds. I don't want to call it finding my voice, but like I remember speaking to a Virgo with Libra Moon, and he had remarked, and I spoke to a Pisces the other day. Hate to just call people by their zodiac signs, but they had both remarked on how like, oh, they don't want to just put stuff out just to put stuff out. Like they want they're doing stuff because they want, or they're putting stuff out to make a statement or to be important. And I'm the Gemini listening, like, oh, I just put out whatever. Like, I don't even, you know, not necessarily arguing, but just in reflection, like, yeah, I really just put, just put stuff out. And a lot of the intent behind it um, isn't really serious at all versus just, being inspired in the moment and kind of expressing what's on my mind. But I realized a lot of that was because I didn't have a direction that I wanted to take it. Or, I mean,
Mm.
and I guess in the moment, I didn't realize I was cultivating. Um, it's like seeing yourself beyond what you are, and being in a forest but not seeing through the trees, versus now through all this time, like being able to reflect and just having more of an idea of now how I want to put all those together. And that's what Virgo is teaching me, as far as like how to
Mm.
take all of this and integrate it and now make more pieces of art in the astrology I do, and in the music. There's like everything I've ever learned is starting to come together pretty much.
That's amazing. And you know what? The integration part is really important because I feel like that's a part of also artist development that I don't think a lot of people talk about because we kind of in the context of music or whatever it is creatively that you're doing, there's an aspect of integration. Um, and what I see often now is, of course, you can release things and share things with the public. Um, but I think that's an aspect that's been really overhyped right now. So I think taking a step back and just integrating the lessons and perspectives and also the skills you develop too. Um, I'll give an example. For example, I've in my creative process and feeling, I've learned how to create samples. So I went through this whole process of making samples and learning more about production and mixing and going deep into my vocal layering and stacking and stuff like that. Um, and so I learned a lot during those phases, but at the same time, I naturally feel a call to just step back and integrate those things. Integration doesn't have to be this like really intense process where you're constantly being stimulated. It's like I can rest. I can take a rest day, and then I find that after maybe like a month or however long goes by, when I come back to creating, I start at a different set point because it's been just integrated, if that makes sense.
Oh wow. Yeah. It's like you you were able to process all of that. But I like that you said by relaxing because I definitely that's another thing I learned as far as just being very impulsive and uh reckless towards wanting to stay stimulated, but then going nowhere really fast. Um but then, kind of coming back, like you said, and having that new set point and realizing you processed it more now that you've integrated it is a really great feeling. And I'm learning to kind of respect that process more.
Mm. Yeah. Because it's like, it's how you build the foundation and you keep building. So you have more capacity over time to just keep developing in different areas.
I'm into that.
Yep. I'm very curious about your astrology journey. And because you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that there's probably been a lot of perspectives you've integrated over the time from when you started astrology to where you're at now. So I'm curious if there's anything you feel like if there's been stages of, because sometimes you have belief systems and perspectives of how you kind of access that tool. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if that's been a part of your process.
Yeah. It's a sounding question to ask because it wasn't until the last 6 months that I've been able to literally mark eras of my journey.
Mhm.
And I don't think I could have done that like 4 years ago, or I mean, a little bit 2 years ago, but like even down to the minute as far as like what I learned through each of them as well. But I noticed, a lot of an anxiousness and impatience in starting where I felt like I had to like know a lot more versus now where the greatest thing astrology taught me is that everything is pretty much cyclical, and
Mm,
in just kind of honoring the process that these cycles make, um, and just seeing how the story they tell, that kind of fundamentally changed the game for me from trying to like figure out what does this planet in this sign mean versus literally like watching what the story of like a planetary cycle with another planet is telling, is showing, is seeing it more as a language. And I mean, obviously, just so much experience. That's been the greatest teacher too. Just that's been the greatest part, really, of just talking to other people and
mm.
them revealing the truth through their own experiences.
Yeah. So, yeah, because you probably had so many sessions with people. Um, what have you learnt about yourself in those interactions?
It's definitely been very humbling. I think I learned that, and that's what definitely makes it very rewarding because I learned that a lot of things that I felt were I was just going through were things that other people experience, and that point of like understanding and connectivity helped me more grateful to be in this role, to help
Mm.
assist and reflect. And um, yeah, I feel like I'm gonna be like a mad scientist in 2 years. I'm like that close to figuring it out or cracking the code.
I feel you. How do you think astrology is helpful for us to navigate life?
Um, that's been one of the major things I've been realizing as far as um how under not necessarily underappreciated, but how underutilized astrology is. Astrology has such a versatile and near limitless utility that I think is bogged down because of how misunderstood it is,
Mm,
and the way it's put out there. It's really put out there in almost like a mentalist way, where it's about knowing who people are and stereotyping people based on their signs. Where people are breaking in now with more consciousness of this, of its practical application. I think the most simple way really is it's a greater clock. So anyone who looks at the time obviously is looking at the time because they're dividing and measuring their days, which at its most basic level, astrology is following the division of the sun for days, the moon for months, the stars and constellations, or really through the zodiac years, with the other stars and asteroids. So I mean, in just at least being aware, right, that a certain cycle is happening, and then you consciously aligning your actions and intent with it, which is the cool thing about astrology. Like everyone's going to have their own subjective experience around these objective mechanics.
mhm,
So it opens up a world of possibility, and it's not necessarily in the extreme way where you have to like say the stars are the reason for everything that happens in your life, the same way that you don't need a GPS to drive halfway across the country, and you don't need to put if the meteorologist says it's going to rain, you're not going to think that your girlfriend's going to come back because they said it's raining. But if you use that GPS, you're not going to get lost, right? You'll probably get there really quick. Just like if you know basic astrology, and you have your own subjective perception of the transits, it's going to be nothing but pure magic, whether through
mhm.
analysis or supernatural events or both.
Yeah, for sure. I
Mhm.
definitely, in my journey, I think early on, I used to get pretty attached, like, because I was more curious about, like, it's kind of a language, and you get excited to learn the language and all the details of it and just how you can interpret it. But I think over time, I've lessened the attachment to it and just am now embracing it as it's like a guide, like an energetic thing that is happening that we can be aware of. And through our own awareness and awareness of synchronicities, we can see how it plays into our life, you know?
Absolutely. Once people know the basics of the language, their brain can figure out the rest, and then they can make their own understanding based off of it. But that's the barrier. Like, there's just a lot of bias for and against it, and a lot of pride and then beliefs and philosophies that bunk just kind of keep them away from their own gift. Like, this is the gift the God gave for anybody to look up and do whatever with, really. So, I mean, I can only hope it's a matter of time until, because there's both sides to it. You have the other side that kind of like, or you have this sentiment that now makes it more of what it's not, and puts up this really bad image of it, which will deter people who may not even know um, what to think about it, and just horrible education around it. But I
Mm.
mean, I'm glad we could talk about it and bring more awareness and all that.
Mm. I just like as you're talking about that, I just because I know a lot of people they try to label astrology and even tarot and stuff as like demonic and stuff. So
Right.
I'm just laughing at that. But um so you mentioned the education aspect of astrology. Do you
Yeah.
see yourself being a part of that education in the public sphere?
I feel like it's my destiny to at the very least introduce into legislation astrology being taught at preschools and kindergarten and grade schools. And it's just really ignorance as to why this isn't happening. Because if you're going to teach children math, then you can teach them astrology because the basics of like every zodiac sign across the ecliptic is an actual degree. So if you teach children that, hey, Taurus is 30 to 60 degrees. Okay, children, what's 150 degrees? Virgo. Like they can know that very quickly as you're teaching them math. And then as they get older, you integrate more symbology. A lot of astrology is mirrored in all this mythology. So, the Greco-Romans had their gods, they called it. The Egyptians had their gods that they called it. And all these things just get like confuddled and mixed, but they're all meant to represent axioms and real universal mechanics that occur. And it's every culture's interpretation of God and time, pretty much, that
Mm,
we see. So I think we're going to revolutionize. I think we're going to kind of like innovate it like the Babylonians did.
mm. Do you feel into what that looks like for you, or is it just an energy that you're following?
Oh yeah, I feel like it's already happened. So as especially as Pluto Scorpios, like we've had our role, and I think we're gonna step more into it. But I already see Gen Z and the new generation. They've already brought it to TikTok, which it's kind of already opened the door. So I think the major issue is probably oversaturation,
Mm.
kind of like how any industry, anything that kind of starts more underground and then now is just kind of super mainstream, but without the understanding and without necessarily actually, yeah, definitely just kind of worried that like it'll dilute more. But then it just kind of be like music, you know what I mean? Like you have music that's really kind of diluted, and then you have music that's really good, and you just have to find. And that's going to be like astrologers or people who do the craft and whatnot. But I also want to speak on what you said as far as people thinking tarot is demonic, and I
Mhm.
think that we're in a place where it's going to come up to head a lot more seriously through being disillusioned. Like we might be in a period of time where a lot of the religious stigma that's existed for quite literally centuries might dissipate, like this age of Pisces is slowly dissipating.
There was this point you made about oversaturation,
Yeah.
um, but I think as we expand, naturally there's going to be more things that expand. So like and I think that's part of the content creation aspect, and like how everything's just being um put online. People are being more progressive and sharing and stuff like that. I think that's part of expansion as we
Yeah.
evolve as humans. But um, I think what's important in that process is that there are people with integrity, and pillars of whatever community or whatever industry that help to kind of be the regulation within that system. So I think you're someone like that who is coming with the purity and integrity of what astrology actually is and being able to maintain that. You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate that. And Yeah, it definitely feels like a responsibility too, as far as to at least play a part in helping develop that.
Mm. Who have been some astrologers that you've been influenced by?
Definitely Christopher Witecki and David Palmer, who is now the Leo King. Those are the first two astrology readings I had, which that was like the first time I had a reading. And I had beforehand, I was not familiar with what a natal chart was.
Mhm.
So it was around that period that kind of like helped me. Um, I mean, I became obsessed. So I had like taught myself during this period, but like it was just it was a really good influence. And at the time, I mean, I didn't know we none of us knew like where we would be now. I'll also say Astrolata as well. Um,
Mhm.
as far as like her, I think what she did in her time is was pretty pioneering and more of a way, you know, being independent and putting that out there is too. Um, but yeah, I kind of took more of an unconventional approach. Um, as far
Yeah.
as like, yeah, you know, like kind of bringing more life and consciousness with the planets as if like they're alive, like I'm speaking with them. So I think the greatest teacher has been like everyone, like quite literally
Mhm.
in doing that, you just kind of see them play through people and situations, and it's been quite humbling.
You know, what I love about your delivery is just it's the Gemini-ness.
Thank you.
Because I've been um following you for years now and I've gotten readings with you, but even on your live streams and stuff, the way that you deliver the message the way you deliver messages is just so funny and like it's chaos but in a good way. Like you just don't care. So I appreciate that. And it's definitely like helped me through it sometimes.
Very grateful. Thank you.
Um How do you feel that people respond to, I guess, you, like, and the way that you deliver your messages and your concepts around astrology and just anything that you communicate publicly?
Oh, great question. Um, I think it's taught me like the importance of belief versus demonstration. Where in detaching and really listening to people and how they formulate their thoughts.
Mm.
I know because I've definitely done this myself too, and in catching myself as far as like getting caught postulating, philosophizing, um, I, in demonstrating truth or in demonstrating this craft, you get to see um, whose beliefs that they've identified with and have attached with are triggered, are shaken, and now they may take as a personal attack where you're demonstrating, you know, craft or truths that contradict what they believe. And this can trigger pride, this can trigger ego, bias, where, you know, they're going to project it as a defense mechanism to defend their identity, their beliefs. You know, almost in denial of what it is you're demonstrating. So it definitely taught me how to recognize, you know, those who demonstrate what they know versus those who talk about what they believe.
Hmm. And do you? has there been an aspect of you that is afraid to express yourself, or have you just been kind of comfortable in that space?
It's felt cringy every step of the way. But yeah, I always just kind of push myself to when my Capricorn moon is like, this is cringy. My Gemini sun's like, okay, I'm just gonna challenge myself to do it. Just so I always kind of stay a bit out my comfort zone.
I feel you. Yeah, I think along my journey of just expression on social media and in public, I've really had to embrace the cringiness too, because I'm a Virgo, so I just be thinking about all these things, and like I also feel into things energetically too. So there's that
Yeah,
other aspect.
yeah,
So, but I think more recently over the last year, it's kind of gone in stages where I post things and I post whatever perspectives I have, the things that I want to share. Um, and I think recently with the things that I've realized about myself and just the breakthroughs that I've had, I've really seen how just petrified I've been of simply expressing myself. So I kind of appreciate myself for just just honoring my desire to express regardless of the cringiness. And
right.
because sometimes I'm just like, yo, I just want to go hide away and not like talk to anyone, and sometimes I'll go ghost for a little bit. Like I have this kind of fluctuating relationship with the internet, but yeah, I think I'm in a place now where I'm a lot more comfortable. But I think it comes from being solid in your beliefs and yourself energetically, having that stability.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the experience and just kind of in a way disciplining yourself to keep with that, even if you fall off, just to get back on it. It really does add up.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask about, because obviously there is an intersection between astrology and spirituality. So, what has the process been like to build a spiritual business? Do you see what you do as a spiritual business or?
That's a really good question because um, what really helped me appreciate is meeting peers or meeting people or kind of getting an idea of success, what's possible to achieve in an industry like this. So I mean, I don't consider what I do a job, but
Mhm,
there is still responsibilities as far as like uh, scheduling consultations, managing money coming from and to clients, marketing, and everything up until now has me kind of really doing the bare minimum and kind of more feeling,
mhm,
kind of being in a smaller pool, versus certain people who have apps that have thousands of people on the app and they probably make like thousands of dollars a month. So I mean, there is a way I could work it a lot like a business, and I do plan to kind of expand over the rest of the decade for sure. But I've really now it's kind of like more possibilities opening up that is changing the way I want to approach it entirely.
mm,
Versus right, especially when I started doing this, I didn't think this was something that I could even make a business through or out of. But yeah, another thing kind of regarding that is relative to this industry, it's one of the most taboo and consequently like fraudulent industries that have always existed. So because of the lack of regulation, it's kind of like medicine. Like Now there's not going to be a lot of quack doctors versus legit physicians because you have a very strictly regulated medical, you know, requirement, at least in certain countries. But you know, with spirituality, anybody can just decide they're a goddess or a priest, and then like do whatever. So it in sifting through who's legit or not,
Yeah.
um, you know, so there's in anyone kind of doing a business in something like this, I always like to say it's great if you're called into it, if it's something that you know you're actually meant to do, because then you're not going to get frustrated if you don't generate profit and money like
Mm,
you know a more conventional traditional business. Not that you can't at all, but personally, this for me is just kind of a platform for people who want that plug, for people who want that cosmic, you know, knowledge or a perception. And as long as like that utility is established and people can, um, you know, get a reading or get some perspective, then I kind of consider that that's kind of my focus right now, and I'll be slowly expanding on that. But yeah,
mm. Yeah, there's a lot in there. And I think for me, when it comes to business, it is a really energetic thing. And I think one aspect of the spiritual community that I do like, in terms of the creating businesses, is that we're aware of the energetic um, aspect of like first of having the calling to step into your gift and sharing that, and then building a community around it, you know, and all the intricate details that come into the energetics of your business. Um, and so I think there's this part of it that I feel like the rest of the world could really learn from, you know, because, you know, generally speaking, there's a kind of coldness to business that
yeah,
we we often perceive it that way, where it's more of like a colder texture to it.
like people say, it's just business.
Mm, that's not true. It's not. It's not. It's really deep. It's really really deep. If you are in alignment with your gift and your calling and your service, you understand that it's a lot deeper than just business. The
Yeah, that's
business is
true.
the structure. It's the structure
Yes.
for you to facilitate something a lot deeper.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Thank you. I think about this stuff a lot because, you know, I'm still very early in my journey of, I guess, being an entrepreneur and
Nice.
starting my own business. But so there's a lot that I'm doing foundationally, energetically to set myself up so that I can move forward accordingly as I, you know, evolve. And I think
Right.
I haven't pushed myself too far ahead of myself, or like tried to build this really huge community, or tried to put myself in spaces that I'm not energetically there yet. Um because I understand the importance of like the hygiene of it and making sure that I have the capacity to really learn the lessons that I need and integrate the perspectives that I need to like go to the next level. And you know, it's a journey. It's not just like jumping straight to success and like the like end result right now. It's like I'm really taking the time to appreciate the journey.
Yeah, and learning not to rush it or feel like could start too late.
Exactly. Are there any like themes upcoming or in the long term that you think are going to influence the creative landscapes and industries?
I feel like 2024 is the final year before everything. This is kind of the year we're going to experience everything end, and then 2025 to the rest of the decade is bringing us into a whole new world order. And
Mhm.
it's just like a massive closure from the past 30 years, and then every 30-year period past the past 3 centuries. It's like a renaissance that we're coming into the rest of the decade.
I definitely feel there's obviously you can tell there's a shift that's happening. And I'll speak from my perspective of the music industry. Like it could apply to a lot of industries, just where we're at with in humanity. But we're in this in between stage, I think. And now with AI and technology, we're kind of just, I feel like we've adapted to it to a certain degree. And now there's this new technology that's sprouting, and we're kind of learning how to acclimate to these newer, evolved versions of it. So I
Mm,
think it's really just going to start to impact creativity so much and just our relationship with creativity. I personally don't have an issue with AI. I'm of the belief that if I pour love into it, it's going to love me back. And I hope humans do that, cuz like the more fear we kind of put into it, um I just think that's going to affect the way it manifests long term. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, we're experiencing the long term effects of what has happened before us too.
How do you see AI?
AI, um,
Yeah.
I think the 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 first time Pluto entered Aquarius, kind of like early 2023. I'm sure AI has been in development for like years now, but that was where it kind of started to really break through into pop culture, and people kind of, it's like a rampant up spike. Chat GPT, that was when the like Chat GPT stuff started to be popular. Once again, I'm sure they've been developing this for maybe a couple decades, but Pluto Aquarius starting with Chat GPT let us know that by 2044, when Pluto leaves Aquarius, every bit and piece of technology is going to be integrated with intuitive AI, and like they're already showcasing robots. So by the time it's over, like we have robots integrated in society over the next 20 years. And the intelligence of AI is probably going to be way beyond what we can. I mean, it already is. They just haven't released it, but yeah, we're only just getting a taste. I feel with that.
Do you have any like personal feelings about what it means for you?
That's a good question. Um, I think it makes me think of if how possible it is advanced societies were on this planet before civilization, and if we're nearing the end of that cycle before society resets, or if this is the first time humanity has ever developed this level of intelligence, and how we're upon the precipice of probably another great acceleration. I mean, us being born in the 90s, we saw like fax machines and corded
Mhm.
phones turn to flip phones, and now we have like virtual reality. So I just kind of see it as another progression forward. It will probably be abused the way everything is abused, but I think going to, it's going to, I think we're like in the thick of it. We're in the midst of some of the greatest like innovations we've probably ever seen, for better or for worse.
Hmm. Are there ways that you want to integrate it into what you're doing? Or have you already been doing that?
No, okay, this is so amazing. Maybe it was the voice of my procrastination speaking, but a very heavy part of my spirit before like AI was a thing, I would have to say like 2018, 2019, 2017. It was like chill out on what I would like. I've been cultivating my ideas, but as far as execution and how to do it, I just kind of had the feeling that there would be technology that exists with which I can do all of that by just like clicking a button. That's not what I told myself, but it's like there'd be technology that exists that'll simplify it. And now in 2024, I'm understanding what that feeling was and how like there's an increasing number of apps and AI now that can kind of like do so much. So I'm going back to the drawing board and kind of figuring out how to integrate that.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to understand what your relationship is like with God. Um, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah. I mean, that's been, I guess, the best part of the journey. I think it's been redefined and re-understood in so many ways. And kind of extrapolating God from a concept to more of like a living being and entity and um creator and energy. So yeah, I guess in understanding myself and being able to listen, that's helped me understand more God. I've come into so much profound revelations and realizations that my understanding of God has kind of now transcended beyond the religious dogma, beliefs, and structures that I guess they had their place. Like it's kind of like how you said business is a structure to go deeper. Like a lot of these philosophies definitely helped me. They were like a
Mhm.
template. They were like a template. It was like training wheels, and in now really kind of connecting more and developing this relationship, there comes time to let go of the training wheels. There comes time to let go of the template and to not necessarily, I'm not going to say carve your own way and destiny, but in really just kind of learning how it is to integrate. This is always coming back to this integration, but also recognize this essence, and accept the promise and the messages that God gives you and how they're always fulfilled. And kind of what I mean by that too is I used to get so caught up on trying to prove God and trying to debunk like oh, this religion or this thinking is right or wrong. And it's just been a continual reminder that God really doesn't need anybody to prove that, the universe doesn't need proof of its existence. Whereas,
Exactly.
right? So I've just been kind of learning how God has been expressing, God and goddess, particularly goddess as well, just expressing herself and through all sorts of beings, almost as if we're their body parts or we're part of their body. We are all one body, but yeah, through life, through circumstances, situations, and it's helped me see beyond my ego.
Mm, I feel that. Are there any kind of rituals or practices you have that you can share with us?
Sure. As far as like anything ceremonial, I've always been very simple. Like I don't really like crystals, candles, um, uh, spells. I have no idea what to do with those. I have like no sense for that, I learned.
Yeah.
But just really staying, I'm not even gonna say staying conscious and aware or focused, but kind of being intentional, um, and working with those bare bones and strengthening my intent, and then I can kind of go through that. So the only thing really I've been practicing that has, I've gained amazing results with, but I'm just kind of redefining how I work with this, the law of assumption. Um,
Okay.
as far as, just deciding and manifesting things out of thin air into your reality. And I guess being a beginner at it and being anxious, kind of, it's the journey has gone from, what, being impatient, right? How quickly can I make this happen? How quickly can I make this happen? Versus now being so humbled, it's like, oh, it's always happening. It took me a lot
Yeah.
of like, right, and it takes a lot of acceptance and I guess like patience. But then you just kind of realize there's never a time it's not happening, and learning to just kind of recognize, because it's easy to miss, I guess, if you distract yourself with worrying or whatnot.
Yeah, I feel that because I think where I'm at right now, I'm like, I don't care about manifesting all this stuff. Like, I care about the things I care about. Like, I have desires and I want to share my gift and all of that kind of stuff. And I can feel into this vision that I have. But, like, I just think I've simplified everything so much where it's just about me my energy and like trying to build the best energetic foundation because like you said it's already happening anyway and
Yeah.
like you're not lacking anything, you're just aligning to a specific type of frequency, and that's the foundation of what's like finding its way to you and what you're able to receive. So I think belief systems absolutely have a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
um and I especially have found for me the link between God and creativity. And I've just realized how it is such a intertwined process. Like as I'm exploring these deep creative aspects of myself, I'm also seeing more aspects of God in that, you know? So
Wow.
um yeah, I'm curious if you've been able to see that for yourself in terms of creativity and like feeling that connection with God or seeing something, and you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like catching greater glimpses of the divine through the creative process in art, and um, in procrastinating, I realized, the more I kind of lean into my creativity, the more I gain the answers I was looking for. Procrastinating, trying to figure them out, and yeah, it's been quite the process. Goddamn sure.
Mhm. Let's talk about music for a second. What got you into creating music?
I was 16 years old, or I was 17 years old. It was 2007, I believe, and I was a junior in high school and a freshman in high school. An Aquarius girl, or a lady, really, who actually, let me say, an Aquarius lady who, because her name was Lady Till, actually, her artist name. She played guitar, um, and she had convinced me to rap with her. I don't think I had done anything since then, and we started making music and rapping, and she had already been playing guitar and like singing. I think. I think she actually had another name, but for the group we made, she was Lady Till. And that's when I made my first few songs. And it wasn't until like 2 years later when I went to college that I started like writing raps with two other students who we were all in a dorm, and like we would just play beats and uh we would record the live raw session of the beats. We've never been in the studio, and just kind of rap over it. And I'm thinking in retrospect now like how much fun that was, but in the moment feeling like, oh damn, like I gotta get a more professional sound, or gotta like, right. But the process of it being so fun and just kind of raw. But that's where like I think that was like 2008 and 2009. And then when I moved to Texas 2010, I had met a group. I had met, I think by chance, a group of people who were just super fucking talented in producing music and singing and rapping and performing, and just kind of being in their influence. Just I learned a lot. It leveled me up a lot. And I think that was where I started kind of like developing my craft as, in writing rhymes or whatnot.
And so, where do you feel like you're at right now with music?
Yeah, I think the thing I kind of am the most grateful for is that at every stage, at least during development, I was I, I was pretty much around people who were so much better than me at the time, or who were just so much better than me. Period. So like it helped me just kind of level up so much. And I would say everything up until now, it developed me so much. I was able to cultivate so much as a writer. I feel like
Mm,
I can write to any genre now. I'm
mm,
just gonna focus more on like like I never had a concept of a sound. It wasn't something that was I didn't know what people meant when they said that, and I still don't really. But I'm not gonna say I'm finding my voice, but I'm definitely getting into making beats now, and I feel like now that
sick.
I write now that I write so well, I feel like I want to kind of go towards management and making beats for people, and maybe even writing music with people, and still
That's really
performing
cool.
too. But yeah, just kind of expanding
What
possibilities.
what interests you about the management aspect?
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely always had the goal to go independent, and just make or produce like that. But I definitely just enjoy, bringing helping bring out people's potential, and being in that position to manage, perhaps, maybe if someone doesn't have the time to do all that, and gain experience doing that. But yeah, yeah,
Is
in
that
a different
so?
way.
Yeah, when you think about like if you were to manage someone, how what are the prerequisites of like working with someone in that capacity?
Oh, that's a good question. Personally, that's a really good question, because I definitely want to take an unconventional approach towards it, and kind of do something innovative. But yeah, I'm more focused on someone who has the heart and the commitment, really, in the sense where like as long as they're okay with the ups and downs, someone who's willing to go the distance. And I say that in a sense where obviously you're going to want to go for talent, but I would definitely rather take someone who's willing to like, or work with someone who's willing to you know actually have the staying power. Because I mean, with artist development, I believe if someone isn't as talented with the experience, they can be.
Hmm.
But I kind of want to like, I kind of want to have the idea where I could take someone who's probably has like no talent and make them go like platinum, and they have like the best song.
Mm,
I feel like everyone has talent. They just need to know how to unlock it. And I mean, like the record label or company is gonna want to sell records, so a lot of A&Rs and you know, taste makers or whatever, they're all looking for a sound. They're all chasing that sound that has been proven to make money. So I kind of really just kind of want to focus more on original sounds, like
mm,
people who have something they want, they stand on, and want to push forward regardless of how popular it is or not, and kind of just move more organized, you know. Get that message, kind of push it forward, and just build community.
mm. Because I feel like we're in this place right now where we're able to literally create our own communities. So
Yeah,
there is the music industry, but and that's gonna be its own thing and do its own thing. But we also are able to, and I think that's what's so special about this time now is that we're
yeah,
seeing more people who are rising into their calling and being the creators that they are and seeing
yeah,
how they want to kind of execute things and engineer communities or like just an infrastructure.
yeah.
uh it stopped recording.
No, it still says it's recording on my side.
Not on mine.
Oh.
God damn, I was in the middle of a thought. All right, so what vision do you have for yourself moving forward into the next 10 years?
Well, I've seen a few paths open up, but I guess before I kind of gain more awareness into what's possible, I'm definitely focused on building community. So I can definitely, um, I think in 10 years would see more expansion towards um, regular events. Um, Definitely on an education platform, like I would definitely like a university or to contribute towards whether online or physically, just you know, a, a big organization that can even extend towards research. But as far as like events, I do want to do this thing where like every year there's like 28 events in different places, and like um 12 of those events would be like a zodiac sign party. So if on Scorpio
Oh,
season, right, or Virgo season, all Virgos get in free, and all the performers and speakers will be like probably a Virgo moon sun rising, and then one of them could be like an elemental conference. So like all the earth signs, it's a party for them, and then all the mutable signs. I kind of want to do kind of event themes around that.
that's really cool. You know, as you were saying that, because you brought up the zodiac signs, there was something you were saying before about your journey into music and stuff. So I was wondering if like if there are specific ways that each zodiac sign expresses itself creatively in a unique way.
Mm, yeah, that's definitely been a huge eye opener. Um, and when you kind of see it like that, you kind of see it the other way around, where it's like these universal forces are playing out through these artists. And that's where it gets even crazier, because if you're aware of the cycles in the sky and the language that they're talking to each other, you see it down here too. Like I've seen a case where like two planets were beefing with each other. One in Pisces and one in Sag, and the Sag and the Pisces were beefing with each other in real life. I was like, this is wild.
Hmm. I'm curious, is there a way, like, if we really tap into the energy of each sign, is do you think there's a way we can utilize that for our creative process?
Oh, could you ask that again?
Yeah, so so every sign has a different energy and different kind of characteristics. So I was wondering if you think it's like it could even be a tool where you kind of draw on the energies of the zodiac and use that for the creative process.
Oh, absolutely. Um, it expresses itself in one's cognitive behavioral function. Um, I like to archetypalize it like anime. So it's like how Sailor Moon draws on her powers. These characteristics are already expressing themselves through you. So it's nothing you have to think about doing. But in being conscious of it, oh, it changes the game for sure. And it kind of functions like a superpower.
Mm,
I I think because maybe people are so used to doing it every day and using it every day, they may not see it as a superpower. And then once they really know themselves, they start to see they always had it.
yeah, because it really is, it just comes down to archetypes. And I've learned in just how I evolve as a person, there's going to be times where I'm drawn to even just certain signs, like, or it doesn't even have to be zodiac signs or astrology. It can be other type of archetypes. Like, there's a leadership archetype or a feminine kind of archetype. And depending on the medicine that we're needing in each period of life, we can draw on these to kind of build upon different aspects of our whole selves. So
Mm.
that's kind of relevant. Yeah, and I feel like previously, because I have a Scorpio moon, so
Yeah.
previously I felt like I was really in the scorpionic energy and just like living through it. But
With
now,
Pluto too, right?
yeah, I
Oh
have a
wow.
stellium in the fifth house too, Scorpio.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but now I feel like I'm really into the more Virgo energy, and just like lately I'm just super organized and like
Hmm.
I know it's really basic, but
I feel you though. It's been kicking
yeah.
in ever since Virgo season 2.
Yup.
There is a magic to Virgo, I'm learning. It's very real.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything else that you want to share um on this podcast or express for people to receive?
Uh, the only thing I'll say is, um, I guess the people who were witnessing the French Revolution probably didn't know it was going to lead to the country of France. The colonists who uh, established independence from Britain probably didn't know that America would have 51 states. Um, like so many points in history that we look back on and can reflect or like change the course of events. I don't think that the people at the time could knew just how big that would be or how much it would lead. And I think we're in such a period right now. over the past few years, but over the rest of the decade for sure. So, yeah, I think, it's healthy to accept the world as we know it may never be the same, and to
Mm,
just be locked in on why you're here and what you're meant to do with it, because you may not realize in a moment that you could be a pioneer, you could be responsible for a way a whole bunch of people think and believe, like, down the line.
mm. Yeah, that is huge. Thank you for that. Um, I definitely think it's super important for us to focus on ourselves and our gifts and doing everything we can to nurture that process. Because, like you said, there's a lot of people, and just the energy I feel is like fertile for new things to come of this reality now.
Yes, very true. Like right now.
Yeah, yeah, literally right now.
Yeah,
Well, I thank you so much for coming on here and sharing yourself with us all. It's been
problem.
an honor.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. I'm not really good with outros and stuff, but hope you guys enjoy this.
Thank you for
All
listening.
right. Yeah, thanks for listening.